Well, today's episode is going to be a little more different. So, we're going to do a lot of reviews. Now, the first two reviews are from GCW from the recent event from July 1st and July 3rd. The first one's going to be, of course, Gateway to the Death. And, of course, the second one, Rock and Roll Forever, which we will see the Rock and Roll Express. And then finally, we're also going to review New Japan Road Day 7 and of course AEW Dark Elevation. And we cannot forget, we got some news updates that's been going on in the world of pro wrestling. So let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome everybody to Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, Gerard here. So, let's begin with GCW Gateway to the Death. Now, this is one of their, I believe, debut shows in St. Louis, Missouri. So, as you know, there have been debuts around the entire time with GCW. This one took place on July 1st. Our opening match, we have, of course, Gringo Loco taking on Graveheart himself, Blake Christian. Now, it was a pretty good opener, not gonna lie. But, as you know, Blake Christian, one thing he has on his mind the entire time, and that is, of course, getting his hands on Jon Moxley for the GCW World title. However, he has to compete with Gringo Loco, aka the Base God. And I thought it was a pretty good match, pretty good high flyers. But, however, it was Blake Christian who walked out the victor with, of course, his finisher. 1, 2, 3, adios. So, basically, he looks like he's getting on a roll. But the real obvious question when we get to the day when Jon Moxley and Christian meet, will Blake Christian dethrone Moxley? We'll just have to wait and see. Next up, we got, one of the most awesome wrestlers, Too Cold Scorpio, taking on Alley Catch. I thought this match was pretty good. I think the one thing I was a bit disturbed at the accidental busting of the lip that Scorpio gave to Alley Catch. I thought it was crazy, but I have to say it was a smart move to try to finish it because we don't know how extent the injury is. However, I want to make a note here. Alley Catch was supposed to wrestle in Rock and Roll Forever, but apparently due to the injury, she was replaced, and I'll get that on the next segment on that. Next up, we got Axton Ray taking on Ninja Mac. I have to say, I've always been a fan of Ninja Mac, always been, and you know how that is because I seen what this guy can do every single time in the ring. So I thought it was gonna fall into favor with Ninja Mac because we know he's been making headways not only in GCW and other locations, but at the same time, we know he'll be heading back to Pro Wrestling Noah soon. But, however, it was him who picked up a very good victory on Axton Ray, and it was awesome. Next up, we got Tony Deppen, the biggest a-hole in GCW, taking on the Prodigy, Nick Wayne. Now, you can, in this type of match, I did like the intensity. Tony Deppen is like trying to show him, you're no generational wrestler. So he's trying to show him how weak and pathetic he is. But don't count out Nick Wayne yet. The kid may be 16, but this guy has a lot of heart. I've always witnessed it. But it was the cloud cutter to put him away, and I thought it was great. And I think this must have been one of the most biggest upsets ever because, like I said, Tony Deppen's a big a-hole. And I think it tells us you should have kept your mouth shut, but nope, he likes to piss people off. Next up, we got Joey Janela versus Davey Richards. Yes, folks, you guys heard me right. Davey Richards. Oh man, I love this. I mean, I know people say he should be in a major promotion. Well, he's not that kind of guy who wants to be involved. But going to GCW was amazing. Now, you could say the bad boy has tricks up his sleeve, but yeah, you can say that. But when it comes to David Richards, you know he has the ability to figure out the human anatomy because he's a paramedic. And I think that plays out pretty well. But it was him who picked up an amazing victory on Joey Janela, and it was great. And I think I have to say, during a post match, during a promo, I think we would love to see him back. You know, because of course everybody's gonna love him there. Next up, we got Jordan Oliver versus the Dark Priestess of the Church of Wrestling, Dark Sheik. I have to say it was a pretty good match, you know, because the way I see it, Dark Sheik is one of the most popular wrestlers that we see in GCW and other promotions. But Jordan Oliver, he is one of the young pillars of GCW. But he picked up a good victory on Dark Sheik, and I thought it was a pretty good one. Next up, we got Effie versus Delirious. Now, I don't know how this was going to go, but of course, we know Delirious. We know he's a legend. We know he's been in Ring of Honor, but it was so insane. But, of course, in the end, it was Effie who walked out as the victor. Next up, this is a bit of a rematch of the trios match. We have Los Macizos, Ciclopse, Medio Extremo, and Jimmy Lloyd taking on the second gear crew, one called Matters, Matthew Justice, and Mance Warner. Now, if you guys remember correctly or previously from other times, it was, of course, Jimmy Lloyd and Los Macizos that picked up a good victory. Some people say it was a fluke. There was some certain flaws in that match. I don't know for sure if that was true, but however, this is more of a payback. But you know, when it comes to second gear crew, they normally take no prisoners whatsoever. You guys seen the kind of way they fight, the way they handle their business, and that's exactly what happened. But it was, of course, one called Manders that picked up the victory for the team, and it was over from there. Now, our next match, we have, of course, our main event, the GCW Ultra Violent Championship on the line between the Wild Heart, Cole Radrick, and Alex Colon. And I think this match shows how Cole Radrick has now grown up to become a deathmatch wrestler. Because in the beginning, as you know, he started out playing just being a traditional wrestler, but jumping into the deathmatch thing, it's pretty great. But however, you know how the blood fighter Alex Colon is. He's a bit crazy, but he picked up a huge victory on this one, retaining the title. So I have to say, Cole Radrick, you did a pretty good job. But hopefully in the future you can become the Ultra Violent Champion. So I think that's pretty much it for this GCW review. Let's check out the other one. I believe we're doing Rock and Roll Forever. Okay, so GCW Rock and Roll Forever took place on July 3rd. This is show number 3 out of 4. I forgot to mention that Gateway to the Death is day number 2, show number 2 of that very weekend. Um, Pretty much it's the same thing. I did mention Rock and Roll Forever. This is where we have, of course, our main event, one of the greatest tag teams of all time in the history of tag teaming, the Rock and Roll Express. Some people call them the early version of the Young Bucks, which is true because they're kind of similar in every way. But yeah, but let's talk about the event. Our opening match, we have Calvin Tankman versus Jordan Oliver. Now, you can say in this type of match, Calvin Tankman has the edge. True. But basically, the only thing that has Jordan Oliver on his side is speed. So he had to use that no matter the cost because, as you know, heavyweight hustle, Calvin Tankman, he is a big fighter. You know how he is. I'm a fan of the guy because he's always true what he says. But unfortunately, it did not go exactly in Tankman's way. Basically, it took at least 2 clout cutters to put him away and giving Jordan Oliver the edge. Next up, we got, of course, Kerry Morton, the son of Ricky Morton, taking on the a-hole Tony Deppen. Now, as I mentioned before in the Gateway of the Death, of the Death, the way Tony Deppen reacted to Nick Wayne. Now he faces another generational wrestler, which is Kerry Morton. So not only that, he even decides to piss off, Ricky Morton, who was right there watching his son wrestle. But of course, this guy had to cut corners, use the ropes at any cost to win, which really disappointed a lot of fans because they did not want this to go down. We all know what we saw, but sooner or later, Kerry Morton will get his payback against him, and that's hopefully the case in the future. Now, our next match, we got the young prodigy Nick Wayne taking on Axton Ray. Now, originally in this match, we were supposed to have Allie Katch, but I mentioned it recently with the Gateway to the Death. She had a busted lip. She was not medically cleared to wrestle, so they found a replacement. I don't know how long it took to find one, but it was Axton Ray who picked up the good victory. Now, I would have liked to see how this match with Allie Katch would have gone with Nick Wayne, but it went pretty well. Axton Ray used a little bit of technician stuff, but it was the cloud cutter by Nick Wayne that picked up the victory. I thought it was pretty good. Next up, we got Shane Mercer versus Blake Christian. This is another good match. We have seen how Shane Mercer is. He's a beast in the ring. That's what makes him what he is. However, Blake Christian, who is determined to go for the top, that's always been his case. But one thing is for certain, when he saw Mercer, he was no joke. But somehow he was able to overcome him, pick up a good, strong victory against him. So it was amazing. It was amazing. So we'll see what goes down there. Now our next match, I believe we have we have Trios match. We have the Blood Fighters consisting of Dale Patrick, Akira, and Alex Colon taking on the Second Gear Crew. Manders, Matthew Justice, and Old Man's Warner. That match was insane. The Blood Fighters waited no time at all. Now, some of you probably say, wait a minute, isn't Alex Colon a member of Second Gear Crew? Yeah, he kind of is, but, I mean, they had many, Second Gear Crew had many members, but yeah, it is. But I thought this match was great. But however, once again, the same old story. Manders helped out with the big pun down to finish this match, giving time for him to pick up a huge victory for Second Gear Crew. Now our next match we have, of course, is a scramble match. We have Nate Webb versus Alec Price versus Carter Gray versus Larry D versus Yuya versus Jimmy Lloyd. Now, basically in this particular match, Larry D was the bigger threat, but Carter Gray had to be dumb to deal with him. But I was a bit like, oh man, this is gonna be interesting. But however, in this particular, there were some moments where we saw how Yo-Yo was used as a weapon, many things. But somehow Nate Webb was able to pick up the victory by taking advantage, not stealing, but more like taking the opportunity to pick up the win with a pinfall. I thought it was very interesting how that turned out. Now our next match, we have Cold Radder taking on the bad boy, Joey Janela. Now, you probably would have assumed there's no way a guy like Cold Radder can take on a guy like Joey Janela. Well, normally I would agree, but however, it was one of the most biggest fights I've ever watched because I did not anticipate a whole lot. But it was amazing. Everything that Joey Janela on his personal arsenal did everything in his power to put him away. Same thing with Colt Radrick. But however, it was a power drive. It was a big time win for Colt Radrick when he pinned him. I thought it was insane. It was a pretty good match. Now our next match, we have Billy Starks versus Dark Sheik. It was a pretty good match too. I thought a lot of things were going to be good because Billy Starks is kind of like their female version of Nick Wayne. Pretty good too. And she picked up a really good victory on Dark Sheik. Now, our main event, we have, of course, the Rejects, consistent of the Duke, John Wayne Murdoch, and Reed Bentley. However, these guys were trashing the place, telling the people what they feel, how dumb they are, and all this and that. And they weren't gonna give a moment to give an introduction to the Rock and Roll Express. So that kind of went on. And then, of course, they try to walk out when people were saying rock and roll. But it irritated the Rejects, but they went back because they wanted to wrestle with weapons. But I think the best moment near the end was when, of course, John Wayne Murdoch brought in some light tubes, and Ricky Morton actually used that against them to pick up a huge victory. But before he did that, he put what's his name, Reed Bentley in a Canadian Destroyer. Oh man, that was great. But it was, of course, that match that won. I think Rock and Roll Express did a pretty good job. I like this one. It was great. So I think that's pretty much it with GCW. I believe it's time for New Japan Road. Okay, so let's talk about New Japan Road. I think this is day 7. This one took place, of course, on the 4th of July, which is today. And I failed to mention that. So anyway, I'll get to that in the end. So, opened up with Kosef Fujita versus Minoru Suzuki. Now, many of these young lions, I have to say, they try to be tough, but there is no stopping the toughness of Minoru Suzuki. Now, you all know how Suzuki operates, how he treats the wrestlers he faces. Well, apparently Fujita ended up in some sort of Fuji armbar, and he had a tap. So, practically, that's how it is. Sorry, Fujita. Next up, now this was a very interesting match. We have Taka Michinoku against a ex opponent, meaning nobody knows who he is, who's this mystery opponent. But I did not expect it. It's the current GHC champion, heavyweight champion, that should be exact, Satoshi Kojima. That's right, folks, wearing the Pro Wrestling Noah gear and bringing the championship. Now, some of you can say, isn't it Pro Wrestling Noah and New Japan rivals? Yes, but they have in the past had working agreements before. Now, this is not something new, not something that we say that, nothing similar like what's going on here in with AEW or WWE. This is different, but they have worked together. But of course, it was the lariat that finished off Taka Michinoku. So sorry, Taka. Next up, we got Rohi Oiwa and Hiroshi Tensam taking on GBH, Tomoaki Hamna, and Togi Makabe. Now, the factor in this type of match is, of course, the young lion involved. So basically, he's the weakest link in the team. However, it was, of course, what's his name? Hamna, who put Oiwa in the Boston Crab and had no other choice but to tap out. Next up, we got Suzuki-gun, Kanemaru, Despy, and Taichi taking on the DKC, Clark Connors, and Yuji Nagata. Now, this match, I wasn't too much pumped on it, but it was Taichi who walked out as the victor. But accordingly, if you guys may have heard this in comments, he got into a heated discussion with Clark Connors, but Despy also called out another particular name, that is John Moxley. I'm like, ooh, this is going to be good. Next up, we got Chaos, consistent of Toru Yano, Yoshihashi, and Hiroki Goto taking on House of Torture, Dick Togo, Yujiro, and Evil. Now, you can say the show is there up to no good, but, however, in this type of match, everything went exactly according to what Chaos wanted. They were able to divert everything they did. However, they did took out Show when he tried to step in the ring, and they used the ring ropes right on the groin to take him out. However, as Kevin Kelly would say when everything was going great for House of Torture, his monitor went out and you all know what that means. That means that, of course, Toriano gave the low blow to Dick Togo and Evil, and that put him in a good spot, giving, of course, Chaos the victory. Now, our next match, we have, of course, LIJ, Bushi, Hiromu, Sanada, Shingo, and Naito taking on 609, Wato, and Taguchi, Alex Zane, and Chaos. Now, this particular match was pretty good. I know that Naito and Okada had their issues, but however, this match ended in favor of LIJ when, of course, Shingo Takagi pulled off Made in Japan onto Master Wato, giving them the 1-2-3. It's over. They win. Now, our main event, we got Kushida versus Hiroshi Tanahashi. Now, keep in mind, this is day 2 for Tanahashi since his return, taking on Bullet Club's Taiji Shimori and Kenta. Now, keep in mind, Kenta hasn't forgotten what Tanahashi put him through, and of course, Taiji Shimori, he's still flabbergasted whether if Kushida is his opponent or not. So he's assessing it about it, but he was able to pick up the victory on Kushida, showing him, this is how we do things my way. So that kind of tells us a different story. So yeah. So I think that's pretty much it with New Japan. I believe we should do our final review, which is AEW Dark Elevation. Okay, let's do our final review, AEW Dark Elevation. We have Anna Jay along with -1, the boss of Dark Order, being there, taking on Megan Myers. Now, I never knew about Megan Myers, who she is, but it was more of a bit of a mystery. She did a little flexibility thing, kind of like something out of a horror movie. Something that, the commentators, both Mark Henry and Excalibur talked about. Oh no, Tony Schiavone talked about. However, it was Anna Jay who pulled off, of course, the Queen Slayer, giving her the W. Now, our next match, we have, of course, the best friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta versus Isaiah Brover and GPA. Now, you can sense that this match was going to go in favor of the best friends because they are one of the most popular tag teams in AEW, and they picked up the huge victory thanks to Trent Beretta. Our next match, we have, of course, JY teaming up with Satnam Singh, taking on, I believe, James Alexander and Ren Jones. Now, we hardly get to see Satnam Singh wrestle. No, we know he's always in Jay Lethal's side, but man, this guy is huge. He did like somewhat of a helicopter spin that ended in that favor where he put his foot down. 1, 2, 3, it's over. Now, our next match, Anthony Ogogo versus Pat Monix. I thought this match was going to go quicker because, with the punch that Anthony Ogogo does, it took a little bit longer, but it ended in that fashion. Next up, we got, of course, the Yoshi wrestlers making their presence, Hikaru Shida and Yuka Sakazaki. If you guys may have heard what happened, Yuka Sakazaki fell, but she's okay. I don't know what happened. They did not see it. But Yuka was having a little fun. Even Justin Roberts looked like he was about to laugh. But their opponents they never mentioned because it was Laney Luck and Heather Reckless that made the attack right away, attacking these two, trying to hopefully they get the better edge. But it did not until Hikaru Shida applied the Falcon Arrow onto Heather Reckless. 1, 2, 3. It's done. Now our main event is the Factory, consisting of Aaron Solo, Nick Hamarato, and QT Marshall, taking on the Dark Order. Evil Uno, Alex Reynolds, and 10 along with -1. I thought this match was going to be interesting because we know that certain times the Factory always get the edge, but not this time. Basically, this combination worked pretty well. It was 10 who picked up a good victory when he applied the lariat onto Aaron Solo. 1, 2, 3, it was done. So I thought it was pretty good seeing -1 there. So we'll see what happens. I know there's been a lot of talk about the Dark Order, but that's going to be at another time. So right now, I believe let's do our last thing, which is news updates. Okay, for our news update, so let's talk about what's been going on. As you know, recently I've been talking about matches that have been actually announced for Terminus 3 on July 21st, where our latest match has been announced. We have Baron Black taking on once again Jay Lethal. This is going to be the second time, so let's call it part 2 where they finish off. So I can't wait to see how this goes down. I don't remember who won this match. I know I saw it, but it's been a while. Now, a lot of news has been coming up towards DDT. Um, there's going to be a special event taking place on the 14th of July. We have the Super Hardcore Girls versus Prominence. Now, some of you are saying, really? They got girls in hardcore matches in DDT? No. We have only wrestlers who dress up like girls to face off Prominence. As you know, Prominence has been making their presence known in DDT. Not to mention their shows are being streamed by Wrestle Universe, which was something that um, Shinjiro Tagaki was interested. He always believes in the product with Prominence, and that's the reason it happened. So they already had matches set, and there's going to be 4. I hope they actually put this one. Um, let's see what we have. We have a special hardcore match with Shuma Katsumata versus Suzuki. Now, this is not the first time they come across. I don't remember what Shuna dressed up as a girl name was, but yeah. Next up, we got a special TLC match. We have Dash Shizako, aka the Queen of Hardcore, taking on Hideki Okatani. Now, I don't remember if Hideki Okatani has ever been involved in these type of matches. Next up is Anywhere Fall match. We have Mao, I forgot what he calls himself, with his alter ego, versus Mochi Natsumi. And then finally, the hardcore match, we have Sylvia Catherine. I think this one is being played by Yuki Inyo. And of course, Elizabeth Toy. I think this is Toy Kojima to take on Risa Sarah and Akane Fujita. So I thought it was a very interesting dynamic what we're doing. Um, so yeah, this event will take place on the 14th of July. Now, speaking on more on what's going on in DDT, we have plenty of stuff. We have, if you guys have been aware recently, Miyu Yamashita went to Barcelona, Spain to participate in an event against Alex Windsor for RCW, which is the promotion down in Spain. They don't do a lot of shows more, but however, there is the match. It's already been linked on YouTube. I will try to link that up as much as like if I can, so you guys can see it. So it will be in the description below once I upload this video. Now our next up coming up, or if you guys have Twitter, you guys can actually check out Dramatic DDT. That's another it's the English web Twitter page for DDT Pro Wrestling. So check out the Dramatic DDT. Also, now, if you guys have been aware, we're getting closer to an event called the Jun Akiyama 30th anniversary. It was announced that 2 wrestlers from New Japan will be making their presence. That is Blue Justice and Yuji Nagata, and of course Kanemaru. So I don't know when will that take place, but we will see it. Now, I mentioned this before on the Konosuke Takeshita updates. As you know, he will be returning to DDT in August, putting everything on hold. He will be participating in the Wrestle Peter Pan, which is the version of WrestleMania, and his opponent has been announced to be the leader of Damnation TA, Daisuke Sasaki. So that's pretty much what's going to be taking place, and I think we got everything covered. So I think we should right now call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode, and I hope everybody has a great 4th of July. Me, I was planning on doing things, but things did not go according to plan for me. I decided to do this for you guys instead. You know, that's how nice I am. But coming up for the next episode, we will do some Tuesday wrestling. As you know, we got NWA Power, AEW Dark, and NXT 2.0. I believe we have the Great American Bash taking place. I haven't decided what other events I will be posting before that. I'm considering either the last GCW event, Backyard Wrestling 4, or if there's anything new. I haven't decided, but I'll keep that as a we'll see what happens then. Go with the flow. But for now, I'll see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. Mwah. And have a nice day. Bang.